Hi, my name's Chef Robert Sevely. Welcome. This is another episode of Flavor of Riverside. Welcome to another episode. I have this fantastic guest with me today. Her name's Jessica Hutchins. She has a website called theveganyoni.com. And we're gonna be doing all vegan food today. I'm super excited about this type of cuisine and this type of production. We're gonna do 4 different recipes today. We're gonna do a mushroom portobello Wellington. It's gonna be wrapped in pastry. And then we're gonna do these stuffed shells, and you're actually gonna make a almond tofu ricotta. Then we're gonna do a shepherd's pie that's gonna have mashed potatoes and lentils in it, so like a lentil shepherd's pie. And then lastly, a chickpea and chocolate chip cookie. And so I'm really excited Jessica's here with me. Jessica and I are really good friends. We have been for years. Her mom actually used to work for me at the cooking store. And so we're just really excited to get started. So the first recipe that we're gonna do is the portobello Wellington.
So we're gonna start off with a pastry dough. Just pretty basic, all-purpose flour, some vegan butter, salt, and then we're gonna do some ice water to kind of get it all going together. So first we're gonna start off with the flour.
I'm gonna get your water for you.
Thank you. And then put some salt in there. And I like to just mix everything up with my hands.
So that's important. You want to mix in the salt and all the dried ingredients. You don't want that to clump like once you start adding the water.
Right.
So that's important.
You want to make sure too that your vegan butter is cubed. I like to use the Simple So Delicious vegan butter.
So what is vegan butter?
It's basically just like a vegetable margarine. You can use it in baking, sauces. It works the same way as regular butter. So I'm just mixing this until you kind of get those little pea-size crumbles before you start adding your water.
And then while she's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make the filling for this. And so I have a saute pan here, and I'm gonna get a flame underneath it. A little bit of olive oil, right?
Yes. You don't need too much. We're sauteing quite a bit of things, but a little bit of olive oil goes a very long way.
And then we're gonna add our onions. These are just a standard like yellow onion. And we're gonna get these caramelized.
And I'm gonna go ahead and start adding my water slowly. This recipe, you're not gonna need to use more than a 1/4 cup of water, but I still like to just add it slow so that way I make sure that I get the right consistency, because you don't want your dough too runny, but you also don't want it too dry.
Right.
So just slowly mixing it in and start clumping it around.
It sort of reminds me of a little bit of a biscuit dough.
Yes.
And
It
so,
does have a bit of a flake to it, but it's not as flaky and crumbly as, say, a pastry dough would be.
Right.
So it's kind of a nice happy medium. So it's a hearty dough.
I like how you just get in there with your hands too.
Yeah.
It's just,
I like to do that when I'm cooking, especially when it comes to dough, because I need to feel it. The consistency is really everything when it comes to this.
right. What is the website all about?
So I wanted to start a platform, not just for vegan cooking, but I also specialize in just mentoring families on homeschooling, green living, zero waste living, and naturally motherhood. It's a lifestyle mommy blog.
So these recipes will be on theveganyoni.com.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Yes, you guys can look these up after you see them cooked and done today and make them all on your own. And the ingredients are super easy to find. That's a big part of my philosophy when it comes to vegan cooking. I don't like recipes that have 30 different ingredients,
Right.
and it's pretty straightforward.
Let's talk about this a second, because this is the dough.
Yes.
So now what are you gonna do with it?
So now I'm going to just lay down flour over the surface.
Jessica, if I could turn your attention to the onions. So
Yes.
I got them somewhat caramelized. So I feel like we could kind of move on maybe to the mushrooms really fast.
Definitely.
And
Got got a good color on those.
Yeah. So this is a portobello. It's the granddaddy of the cremini mushroom. What we want to do here is we want to pull out the gills, they're called. These are actually the seeds of the mushroom. They get really black, and any sort of liquid, they make it really dark. And they taste kind of muddy too. That's one of the reasons why we take them out. And so we're just sort of going along here and taking these out. Once they're done, it looks like this. And we're just gonna add all the mushrooms into here, as well as the garlic. Okay. And then the bouillon. So
Yeah.
what's your favorite bouillon that you use?
Non-chick bouillon. So they sell it at any health food store, really, especially in town. I like to get mine from Sprouts here in Riverside.
And I'm literally just breaking this up in here. So we're not adding any water to it,
No.
but we're just adding one bouillon cube to the pot. And we're gonna keep sauteing. If I need to add a little bit more oil, I will.
And you want to add that bouillon before you add any type of salt and pepper, because the bouillon does carry quite a bit of salt to it. So I like to do that first and really get that flavor into the mushrooms.
Oh, this smells so good.
It does.
And the mushrooms will start releasing their water. And at this point, I'm gonna add the fresh thyme. So that's in. And then we just sort of keep sauteing this, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now what are you doing with the dough?
So I've added the flour down to the surface that I'm going to roll it out on, and then I added quite a generous amount on either side of the dough, just so that way it's not super sticky and it rolls out easier. So we're just going to roll it out, and you want to get it to a point where it's about, I would say, half an inch thick. And that portobello is what's going to be the hardiness to the portobello Wellington. So almost kind of like your meat substitute.
Right.
There's tons of flavor. They're super filling, really great nutrients, and the texture is really nice paired with this flaky pastry dough wrapped around it.
We need to add the spinach too. If you want to
Yes.
hand me the spinach. And so this is organic spinach that comes in bunches. Mm-hmm. And all we did was we tore off the bulk of the stems, we washed it, and then probably a very essential thing for like a vegan household would be a salad spinner, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
So
yes.
we just
We
want
use
to
that often.
spin this, and then we can take this and you can see the amount of water in the bottom, and that catches any sand or anything like that. And so the spinach will go in, and then we can get rid of the salad spinner.
And so I'm just rolling this out, and I like to kind of push it down, little crack.
It's all right. You just sort of push that together and just keep going. All right, so then what do? Just fold it up?
Yep, so we're gonna fold it up. I like to fold it in half long ways first, and then fold it into thirds. So you kind of get a nice little square. And then what you can do, I'm gonna put this in a Ziploc today, but you can also wrap it in saran wrap as well. And you wanna chill this for about 30 to 40 minutes. You want to give it enough time to really cool down before you rework it again. And the reason why we do that is because the butter will start to really melt down the dough.
Perfect.
If we overwork it.
All right, I'm gonna get out some dough because we already have it chilled and done.
So we're gonna go ahead and unwrap the one that we had chilled. And
And
again, lay down some flour.
And then how's this looking to you? The filling.
Really good. Just about done. I'd say maybe another minute,
Okay.
if that.
Okay.
And I kind of like
So
to
yeah, it's really
palm warm it.
yeah, it's really hard because it's
Yeah.
been sitting in the fridge. And we did this yesterday, so we can do this a day ahead.
Yes. You can even freeze it. which is what
Okay.
I also love. You
And
can-
then have it on hand whenever you need it.
I have used this for biscuits or smaller pastries, and then I'll do a tofu beef crumble in the middle.
Right. You could probably even do like empanadas with it or something like that.
You know what? You can actually add a little bit of turmeric to the dough.
Make it yellow.
Yes, and it makes a really, really good empanada.
If we want to talk a little bit about arrowroot.
It works just like a cornstarch would. It's a thickening agent.
Yeah, so this is just a McCormick brand, but you can get whatever brand you want. But it looks just like cornstarch. It has like the consistency of cornstarch, just like so. It's a thickener, not like a leavening agent like baking powder or something like that. And then you want to do a slurry with it, and that's what we have here. So like, you know, twice the amount of water to how much powder you have in there. And then this is just going to help your filling that during the cooking process inside the dough, it's all going to really hold together well. And so I'm just going to add this in and just kind of stir this together. And it helps all the juices from the spinach and the onions and the mushrooms just really kind of stick together. You're not going to taste it or anything like that. So this is ready to rock. And so then what we did was we spread the filling onto a sheet pan like so. And this is to get it cold. We don't want to put the filling in to the dough hot because we have all that beautiful vegan butter in there, and it's just gonna melt the dough. And so you just spread it out like this, and then this can either go into like your freezer for a bit, or it can go into your refrigerator. And once it's cooled down to like refrigerator temperature, we're set. We can start working with it, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna get this put away, and I'm gonna bring out the stuff that we already made.
Perfect. So I have the dough rolled out. We're gonna go ahead and make the Wellington imitation egg wash.
Okay.
Basically what that is it's gonna give the top of the Wellington a nice golden color, just like a normal egg wash would do, but obviously we're not using eggs.
I'm really interested in this because it makes a really golden brown color and everything. So what's in this?
So first I start with the hemp milk, which
Hemp
we have
milk
here.
right here.
And it's the unsweetened original. I like to use hemp milk because of the fat content in it. It also contains a lot of omegas.
Okay.
We also did a little bit of olive oil. And then our garbanzo bean water, which is the liquid straight from a can of garbanzo beans.
So what does this do? This can almost act like an egg substitute, right?
Yes. So you can do tons of things with garbanzo bean liquid. You can whip it and make a type of meringue out of it. You can
Wow.
do it as an egg substitute in any baking or cooking.
And it's just the water. So so if I'm going this route, I want to save the liquid that's in these cans.
Yes.
And is it just garbanzo beans? Can I use like black bean water or something like that?
No, yeah, it's just garbanzo beans.
Okay.
So, and you can save it. It'll save, I have a jar of it in my fridge at home, and it saves up to 4 to 5 days in the refrigerator without going rancid.
Okay.
So, and then we
then-
did a little agave. We have a blue agave.
A blue agave.
Yes.
And so these are these just simple, almost everyday ingredients outside of the hemp milk, but they can get that anywhere, right?
Yes.
Can I use like soy milk or almond milk or something like
You
that?
can. You just want to do a thicker nut milk, ideally. So
gotcha.
even like a macadamia would be really good, but just keep in mind the sweetness.
Okay. Well, let's get it put together. Let's do that.
So we're gonna add the hemp milk first. And that's the awesome thing about this is you can just mix it all together. Doesn't matter what order you put it all in. And then get that agave in there.
Want a rubber spatula?
Yes, thank you. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just use a fork and whisk this together really
Just
quick.
like you do with eggs, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll take our filling.
So this is the filling that we did earlier. It's completely cooled off.
So what you're gonna wanna do is just take a spoonful at a time, and you want to lay it down the center of your pastry. And don't be shy, add a lot. I like to do it just a layer at a time down the center.
So amazing. So then you always do the Dijon like very, very last, right?
Yes, I do not mix it in with the filling. It could be a little bit overwhelming in with the rest of the flavors that we have. Putting it on top, it also bakes it into the top of the dough, which is really good. And I like to just use a regular Dijon. It gives it that little kick. And you just want to spread it across the top there. So going with my Southern California roots here, I kind of do this burrito style. Nothing worse than a blown out burrito, I'll tell you that.
That's right.
So then we just fold it over this way. And then I like to just kind of pinch the edges for some extra security.
Yeah.
And you can do just like you would do with a pie even. You can add designs on here if you're doing it for a holiday, or you can cut out little leaves and you could braid it.
I love things wrapped in pastry. You wrap something in pastry and I'm all in. So now we're going sheet pan, right?
Yes. And see how easy it is to lift? That's the
Yeah.
other great thing about that dough is you don't have to worry about it falling apart on you.
And we want to do parchment paper down on the sheet pan,
Yes.
which is important. That way it doesn't stick or anything.
Yes. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take our wash that we made and generously brush it throughout the Wellington. And that's going to help give it that nice golden brown color and also add a lot of flavor to the top part of the dough. The blue agave really does come through and pairs really well with the portobello.
Is there a difference between blue agave and like regular agave? Is it just darker? I think I always see it a little darker.
Blue agave is a little bit darker, and I find it to be a little bit more rich than the regular agave.
So it give you a little better color maybe too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's what you're sort of shooting for.
And after you do your first wash, I like to put it in the fridge for a couple of minutes to let that wash set.
Okay.
And then bring it back out, do another layer in the fridge to set, and then
So
into
two
the oven.
times do
Yes.
this.
So now we're gonna get it into the fridge.
Okay, so we're gonna get this into the fridge. We're gonna do another layer of the wash for it. We're gonna kind of get ourselves cleaned up, and we're gonna show you what the end product of this Wellington looks like. So we'll be right back, gang.
Okay, so we went ahead and pulled the Wellington out of the fridge after the first wash. We just let it sit in there for about 5 minutes
Yeah.
to set a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and do the second wash layer.
It's so pretty. It's like glossy. It's gorgeous. You can see just all the different ways that you could decorate it and stuff. I'm really excited to eat it.
Yes, looks really good.
So one more on the wash, and then it's ready to go in the oven, right?
Yes.
So what temperature?
So this is a bit of a different temperature for most.
Yeah.
You wanna put it on 390.
390 degrees, not
Yes.
400.
No, not 375.
Right.
In my experience with making this, is 400, it burns it really quick.
Okay.
And the 375, even 380, it takes too long to cook. It's
Right.
really weird. So that just seemed to be the sweet spot for this, was 390.
A lot of this has to do with the relationship between you and your oven.
Yes.
And that's the relationship that you have with your oven.
Yes.
Is that 390 spot. So all recipes are like guidelines in order to get to the end. So you all will have to figure that out at home, exactly what temperatures working best for you, best for this recipe and stuff. I definitely start off at 390. And in the way that I always, so how long does it go in for?
You want to watch it, but ideally this should be only in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes.
Okay, so I think that too. Set a timer, like if it's 35 minutes, say, let's set a timer for 20 minutes.
Yes.
And then check it, peek on it, and then set another timer for 10, and then you go down the road like that. Don't just set a timer for 35 minutes, walk away, go do
Right.
laundry and stuff like that, and then
Yes.
come back and you end up with a burnt Wellington.
Right.
Okay, so let's get this into the oven. I'll let you slide that in. I'm gonna grab, so we have one that we already made and that we baked. Look at that.
Yes.
That just looks so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's got a nice golden brown to it.
Yeah.
You can tell from the dough it's nice and flaky.
It's not running anywhere.
No.
And I think really a lot of that's due to the arrowroot.
Yes.
That's in there. It's helping kind of keep that all together to where like most recipes might use a whole bunch of cheese in it or something like that as a binder.
Yes.
And you don't have that here, and I love that about it. So let's just see if we can. You want me to do it?
Yes.
Okay. We're
You
gonna
do the
move
honors.
this to a plate. We might even be able to like almost look at that.
Yes.
So we're just gonna move this over, just like so. And that is just absolutely gorgeous. So we're gonna cut this later on in the show because you essentially want it to rest for a bit, right?
Yes, you don't want to cut it immediately. Give it about 10 to 15 minutes to rest,
Yeah.
but no longer than that. You definitely want it to still be warm,
Yeah, so
So-
how many people would you say this feeds? 4?
if not
With,
more.
with side dishes and stuff
Yes.
like that, right?
Yes.
So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna set this aside. We're gonna present it later on in the show with everything else, and we're gonna move on to our stuffed shells, which I'm so excited about. And so we'll be right back with Jessica Hutchins, theveganyoni.com. I'm really excited about the next dish. All right, so we're back. Jessica's gonna show us now, we're gonna do the stuffed shells. We're gonna make a fresh tomato sauce, and then we're going to make a vegan ricotta and stuff these shells. I'm super excited. So
Yes.
why don't you show us how to make the sauce?
So the sauce is super easy, pretty basic. There's some fun ingredients in here though that give it a nice kick of flavor. I like to start off with the base of just a regular vegetable stock, and I just pour in half the box.
So right about like 2 cups or so.
Yes. So not too much because I don't like the sauce too liquefied. We want it to still coat the shells nicely. And then I do a can of tomato paste.
Okay. And that's just gonna add depth and body and stuff like that to it. It helps, it will actually thicken up that veggie stock as well.
Yes. And then I do vine ripened tomatoes.
Yes.
They're juicy and beautiful.
And if you can grow your own, that's amazing, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tomato plants grow so well here in Riverside.
Yes. So
All
just dump
those.
all of those in there, and then we do brown mushroom,
Cremini mushrooms.
mini mushrooms.
Yeah, the baby portobellos. Okay, so now we're gonna add fresh basil.
Yes, and I like to just tear it up into nice big chunks and drop it in. We're gonna do a little dried oregano,
Beautiful.
some minced garlic.
And then probably now one of the more interesting ingredients.
Yes, the coconut sugar.
So how come we're using coconut sugar and not regular sugar?
Coconut sugar, it's a little bit more coarse and
Okay.
it adds a nice sweetness to it, but it's not super sweet.
And so it's
it's
not a
pretty-
brown sugar, but it's coconut sugar. It's unbleached, and it is a vegan sugar.
Yes.
And it's something that I learned from you recently is that most cane sugar isn't vegan.
Right, I know.
And the reason why it's not vegan is it goes through this bone charring process that helps bleach it, correct?
Yes.
And they use pork bones. Not that there's pork bones in the sugar, but this somehow it comes in contact with the sugar,
Yes.
and therefore it makes it non-vegan, and it's through the bleaching process. And so
Yes.
you look for that sort of thing when you're buying things. Okay,
Yes.
so now what do we do?
So now I'm just gonna do a little pinch of salt and a little bit of pepper to taste. And then you can add more as you go, but I like to do salt and pepper gradually. And
Okay.
then we're gonna start it on a medium to low heat.
Okay. And so can I just stir this?
Yes.
All right. And so now that this is all together, it looks beautiful. we're just gonna cook this down, and while we're going here, that's gonna cook. Now we're gonna make the ricotta cheese, the vegan ricotta cheese.
Yes.
And so let's start doing that.
So it's an almond-based ricotta, and I like to use almonds because of the fat content. It creates a really great consistency, and it's super easy because it's all in the food processor. So if you have one of these, it's a great tool.
Yeah, it's a real essential tool to have. And so what'd you do with the almonds? Are those just straight out of the package?
So these are slivered almonds, and I soaked them for 40 minutes to an hour just to soften them up.
Like minimum. Now, we could do this overnight too, right?
Yes.
And you're just using hot tap water?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you're gonna dump.
And you drain them.
Yes, you drain them, and then we did about a cup and a half here.
Okay.
And then I do a little bit of lemon juice. And I just cut a whole lemon in half and juice it, squeeze it right in there.
Beautiful.
Make sure you take the seeds out.
Yeah,
That's
no
happened to me.
seeds.
And then some minced garlic. Again, with the fresh basil. Just like to do about 5 to 6 leaves. And again, just tear it right in there. The food processor will do the rest. A little bit of sea salt.
And you like sea salt. You use sea salt for any particular reason over kosher or iodized salt?
No particular reason.
Okay.
It's a good salt. Usually it's not bleached.
It's delicious.
You could do a pink Himalayan salt as well, which I also really like. It has a lot of good minerals within it too, so either
Right.
one. And then this is so delicious, unsweetened, regular vegan yogurt.
So what's it made out of?
It is a soy-based
Soy-based yogurt.
and it's just whipped soy milk basically.
And it tastes like yogurt?
It does. It tastes
Awesome.
exactly like yogurt. It has a little bit of tartness to it. This one is actually has a little bit of coconut cream in it as well.
Okay.
So it'll add a little bit of sweetness to the ricotta.
And some fat too, right?
Yes.
Is the idea because of the coconut milk and stuff?
Yes. And then we're gonna do a little nutritional yeast.
And I find this interesting. I'm gonna reach across you here and grab that. So this is the nutritional yeast right there.
Yes. This is an amazing thing to have. It adds kind of a creamy, cheesy almost type of flavor. If you're doing a gravy or you're making a faux cheese like we're doing today, it gives it that taste.
Okay.
You can also use it dry and sprinkle it on top of baked potatoes.
And it's just a type of yeast?
Yes, it's just yeast flakes.
Yeast flakes. Now, will it like start to react with water or anything
Yes,
like
it
that?
will.
So it will grow?
Not necessarily grow, it'll just kind of liquefy. So it's more for like a
Flavor.
sauce based in flavor.
Flavor versus like
Baking.
leavening bread and stuff like that. Okay.
Yes. So we're gonna add some of that in there. Again, with our unsweetened original hemp milk.
Hemp milk.
Again, for the fat. I'm kind of like the Paula Deen of vegan cooking.
Right.
And then we have some fresh chopped parsley. And this is regular non-GMO tofu.
Right.
We did about a 1/4 cup of this. Sometimes I like to add a little bit more if I want my ricotta to be a little bit more fluffy, especially when I'm doing stuffed shells.
Right. Anything else?
Blend away.
Okay. So we're just gonna get this going.
And you want to blend it for a while
Okay.
because you want to get that graininess out of the almond.
We have a finished product here. So once it's fully blended, we're gonna get it into the refrigerator for like how long?
I would say 15 to 20 minutes. It helps it set.
Okay. So at this point, we're gonna do that and we're gonna kind of move on here. So now we've brought out the cheese that we already made. I keep calling it cheese. Is that okay?
That's totally fine. Yes, that's what it's a nut-based cheese.
Nut-based cheese.
So we're gonna go ahead and add in the spinach. We just have some fresh spinach here, and I leave the leaves pretty whole.
Okay.
I would say about 3 cups worth. And then we went ahead and did the Smart Ground beefless crumbles.
Okay. And this is a soy-based product as well?
It's a soy-based product, and it works exactly like a ground beef would.
So to this recipe, you're adding basically 1 whole package of that, which
Yes.
is like maybe 8 ounces.
Yeah, I'd say 1/2 pound.
Yeah.
And then you just mix it all in together in with your ricotta. And this is gonna be the stuffing for the shell.
So then what do we do for the shells? So we have these jumbo, and this is the one that you specified, the Barilla,
Yes.
in your recipe. And any particular reason on that? I mean, obviously it's got to be a vegan product.
It is. The only thing about this pasta brand is that it is manufactured in the same facility as eggs. So
Okay.
they do have that disclaimer on there, but there is no eggs within the product.
Right, okay.
So I do like this brand of pasta a lot. So what we did is we cooked them off pretty al dente.
Just in hot boiling water,
Mm-hmm.
and then you almost like cook them like 3/4 of the way, right?
Yes.
Sort
Yes,
of
you
thing.
want to leave them still fairly firm so they're workable without you breaking them.
Right,
And then as
so-
you put them in the oven and slather them with sauce on the top, they will cook further.
And then you just go into a baking dish.
Yes.
So hey, while you're filling these, what other stuff does the veganyoni.com show you? Like what other stuff about the lifestyle are we talking about besides just vegan?
I am a homeschool mom. I have 2 daughters, and we do a nature-based homeschool, and I talk about that a lot on there.
And they're being raised vegan as well, right?
Yes, they've actually been vegan pretty much since they were born.
That's awesome.
And they're about almost 4 and 5 years old now.
4 and 5.
Yes.
Ruby and Olive.
Ruby and Olive.
Love Ruby and Olive. And so I noticed that like you came over to our house, you brought us a dish one time, and you had like this kind of wax paper over the top.
Yes, so that is
And you make that yourself, right?
I do. So I am a huge advocate for zero waste living,
Right.
which basically is minimalizing trash
Right.
and waste. So those actually were my homemade wax wraps.
Right.
And
Using instead of like saran wrap or tinfoil or something like that, right?
Yes.
And then I've been to the beach with Jessica and her family, and I see the kids and they have on your homemade sunscreen
yes.
as well.
So I do make our sunscreen, and I also do a bug off spray.
Bug off spray.
So it's essential oil based, both of them, but the sunscreen actually provides a 40 SPF and is made with all essential oils and avocado oil, which avocado oil actually has a natural SPF of 10.
Right.
So it's a great base to use. And then I just put them in amber spray bottles. So that way we are being mindful of the ocean and our trash, and also the chemicals, for not just for our own bodies, but for the chemicals that we could potentially be putting into the ocean.
Right. All right, here, let's move on to the sauce for a second. And it's cooked down some. I think it probably needs a little more cooking, but we're gonna blend it. And so we have our immersion blender here. And if I could sneak in front of you. And so, so we're just, you can blend the sauce. You can do it chunky though too, right?
Yes.
And so, but we're just gonna get in here and blend this together. You could use like a regular blender if you want to.
Yes, like I don't have one of these tools, so I do use a blender
Right.
for it.
Now it's just a nice jar of marinara sauce essentially, right?
Right.
And so then we can put this over the top of your pasta.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that she's doing it just in like a small casserole dish.
Mm-hmm.
And you pretty much got those all done.
Yes.
You want to go ahead and get some sauce over the top of that.
Absolutely.
And so we just ladle the sauce on. Looks delicious.
Turned out really good. It smells amazing.
And can I do this the day before?
I almost recommend it. Yes.
So do this and then let this sit in your fridge. And I always like that. I always like to show people that like all this, you can now have your kitchen all cleaned up and stuff, and then your guests come over and you're just popping this into the oven.
Yes.
And I even like to say like with dishes like this, earthenware dishes, we could also pop it onto our barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
and have the lid down and heat it up that way. And now we're not heating up the house depending on what time of year it is.
That's a great idea.
You know?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so then this goes into the oven for approximately how long?
20 to 25 minutes on
Okay.
350.
And at 350, 20 to 25 minutes. And then if you have a bunch left over, can you freeze it?
Yes.
And so we could just keep filling shells. We could freeze it. We could freeze the sauce separately, right? And so it's really an excellent way of doing it. Let's put this in and we'll bring one over. So we did one earlier and that just looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
You could do some sort of vegan cheese over the top if you wanted to,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So Delicious makes a great Parmesan that you can grate and it comes in a block. But you can even see just how the ricotta, it cooks exactly like ricotta.
Right, it sets up almost like ricotta mixed with egg, right?
Yes.
Next, we're gonna do the lentil shepherd's pie. I'm really excited about this one too. And so we're gonna reset the kitchen and come back with Jessica, theveganyoni.com. So we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so we're back. Jessica is now going to make her lentil shepherd's pie. So if I'm here, where do I start?
So I usually will soak and cook off the green lentils first in just
Okay.
a little bit of vegetable stock.
So those are soaked and they're cooled, right?
Yes.
So they quit the cold cooking process.
And you can do that days before. Even if you have leftover beans in the fridge, you can utilize those too.
Right, instead of lentils, we could do black beans or pinto beans or white beans or something like that too, okay?
Yes. And then same thing with the potatoes. So I cook those off before I even start thinking about the filling, get the water going, get the potatoes in there. So that way it all kind of finishes all at the same time. First, we're gonna start with the olive oil in the pan so that way we can saute the onions and the garlic together.
Okay, so just like one chopped onion.
Yes. And then
And-
about a tablespoon of minced garlic.
Beautiful.
Okay, and we're gonna get that going and sauteed. Just want it lightly caramelized.
And then let's talk about why that's going. So you're using Yukon Gold potatoes, right?
Yes.
And Yukon Gold potatoes, I'll just go on the other side of you here. More and more, I'm finding them where they're really small. I just actually did a recipe at home where we used Yukon Golds and they were really small. And I was messing around with them and I'm like trying to peel them, right? And this not getting in there, not doing a very good job, almost hitting my fingers and stuff like that. And so what I started doing, Jessica, is I fork them, right?
Oh.
And then I take them and I can get all the way up against the fork and it makes it super easy. I just pull it off, I trim that little area and it just gives me a nice little handle.
That is a great idea.
So once they're fully cooked, I can just leave them sitting in the hot water so they stay hot and then we're gonna mash them here in a minute.
Yes.
All right, what else
So
are we getting in here?
we are gonna add in some celery, chopped celery,
Okay.
and we're gonna add a little bit of fresh peas and shredded carrot.
Okay.
Makes it nice and hearty.
Looks gorgeous.
A little bit of fresh thyme.
Awesome.
And then lastly, our green lentils.
Nice.
So these are packed with protein, great meat substitute. I even like to use green lentils to make a faux taco meat.
Oh, really?
You can add taco seasoning in there, and they make a great taco filling. I'm gonna add a little bit of vegetable stock, about 2 cups, because
Okay.
that's actually gonna work as the gravy.
Gotcha. Just like a shepherd's pie where you'd have this really nice, rich sort of beef gravy or lamb gravy.
Yes.
You're having this nice veggie lentil gravy. It looks delicious.
Yes, and we kind of want it to just simmer in there for a little bit. We'll add a little bit of salt and pepper.
I'm going to
taste.
strain your potatoes and get ready to mash these.
Thank you.
So there's those.
Perfect. And we just have this on a high heat. Like I said, I am not someone that gets to spend hours in the kitchen making a meal, so
Well, you got 2 little ones, and so they're running around.
Yes, but
And-
you know what? I love getting them in the kitchen. That's part
Yeah.
of my philosophy with my parenting, and I integrate it in with our homeschool, is getting them involved with me around the house. And the kitchen is our favorite area. We're in there more than any other part of the house.
Right.
They have their own little step stools, and they'll stand at the counter. They help me chop things and baking and mixing. So Olive and Ruby love cooking with Mama.
All right, I'll keep an eye on this.
Thank you.
And
I'm gonna
then-
head over here and do the potatoes. We're gonna bring back the hemp milk, again for the fat content, and then also the omegas in it, I love. And it helps make the potatoes nice and fluffy. So I actually add all of this in before I start mashing. And then we're gonna do the vegan butter, and we went with an earth balance. I like to use the sticks because they're easier to just chop into cubes and measure out.
Yeah,
Okay?
and just like on the a butter stick, it gives you the tablespoon measurements, or like if it's a 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup too.
Yes.
So that makes it easy for measurements.
Yes. And so we're just using a firm whisk and just mashing down the potatoes, getting everything mixed in together. And depending on how you like your potatoes, I like mine pretty creamy. One good way to get a vegan potato even more creamy is to add more hemp milk. Same with a regular mashed
Okay.
potato. If you wanted a
Or
little bit more on the
butter,
creamy side,
you know,
yes.
or the vegan butter. You want me to add some salt?
Yes, please.
So you just tell me when.
That's good.
Okay. Some pepper?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't be shy with that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is up to a nice good boil.
So then once it starts to get to that simmering point,
Yeah.
that's when I like to add the arrowroot.
Arrowroot. So we're doing that again. This is arrowroot, and just so it's a slurry, unlike a roux. We've talked about this on the show before. A slurry means mixed with some sort of cold liquid. You do that with cornstarch. You can do that with flour, and obviously we're doing that with arrowroot. Or if you want to use some sort of like tapioca flour or something like that, that would work as well. But when it sits like this, it settles just like cornstarch. So we need to make sure we stir it again. And so you want the slurry to look milky. And so I'm just using my finger and I'm just stirring it. And then we're adding this in.
You actually taught me that, the slurry.
I did.
Yes.
I did.
So that way I'm not whisking my arm off.
Yeah.
Trying to
'cause
avoid
if you
clumps.
just put the powder in, it's probably going to lump,
Yes.
you know?
That looks
So
great.
this is thickening.
And as it cools too, it's
It
gonna
thicken
thicken
more.
even more. That's looking beautiful. It smells delicious.
It smells great. Okay.
Start lowering that heat down, turn it
Yeah.
off and let it cool a little bit.
Okay.
And it'll thicken.
So we're going to just put the mashed potatoes right on top of this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So you can see these are nice and creamy. You almost want them a little bit more creamy than you probably normally have them, so that way they spread a little easier. And I just start kind of dolloping around,
Beautiful.
and they'll lay right on top.
I have one that we have down here that's pretty much ready to go. See this beautiful
that's
shepherd's
beautiful.
pie right here.
Yum.
And so this one's just ready to set on the table, right? And,
Yes.
and serve.
I like to let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes, again, just to kind of bind everything together.
And we put a little bit of olive oil on top so we could get it a little bit more brown,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and you can do nutritional yeast on top of it. You can even add more fresh thyme if you want, breadcrumbs, however you want to top it.
So once again, we're gonna serve this all up at the end. We now have a garbanzo bean and chocolate chip cookie that we're gonna put together. We'll be right back with Jessica and the Vegan Yoni. Now, Jessica, we are going to do a chickpea chocolate chip cookie. What is this about?
Well, it doesn't taste like chickpea, so
Okay.
I just want to put that out there because that can be kind of,
Different?
yes.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing, easy kind of version of a blondie cookie.
Okay, yeah.
And it's chocolate chips. So I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna start with a full can of garbanzos or chickpea,
Okay.
both names people use.
Yeah.
The
Strained, right?
Yes, strained. And then I highly, highly recommend saving the water
Right.
because again, we use it as an egg substitute in vegan land. You can use it if you're making the mushroom Wellington. So we just go ahead and dump. And the cool thing about this recipe is it's super fast and everything just goes into the food processor except for the chocolate chips. We're gonna blend those in last.
Okay.
So we do the full can and then we do a little bit of salt. And then I have a maple syrup and blue agave blend in here. I like to use dark chocolate chips, so I use both for that added sweetness.
Right.
And it also cuts out that garbanzo bean flavor.
So that's what you had in your recipe when I went shopping for this. And I bought the blue agave and the maple syrup, but you were saying that at Trader Joe's, they actually do an agave maple syrup blend, right?
Yes, and it's amazing. I'd use it for everything.
So what are some of the stores that you like as you're adding, that's the baking powder,
This
baking
is the
soda.
baking powder, baking soda.
What are some of the stores that you shop at for getting all of your vegan stuff here in Riverside?
Well, I really, really like Sprouts and Goodwin's. Those are my top two.
Right.
But you know, Trader Joe's is carrying a lot more vegan options.
Right.
And they actually have a Facebook group, Vegan Trader Joe's,
Yeah.
that I utilize quite often. But predominantly it's Sprouts and Goodwin's because they carry a lot of non-GMO products. And speaking of which, I just added again the Earth Balance vegan butter here, which is non-GMO.
And then I noticed too, like I did a bunch of the shopping at Stater Brothers. And I mean, the world of being vegetarian and being vegan has really grown exponentially in the last few years to where you can get twice or three times or four times as much stuff now in just your normal grocery store than what you used to be able to get. It used to just be a small section with some tofu.
Right.
And that was about
here's
it.
your rabbit food and your tofu.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's and the thing is too is that it's not as expensive.
Right.
You know, and there's so many substitutions. You know, there's some vegans that don't like the imitation meats. I, for one, utilize it a lot in my cooking.
Right.
And they're super affordable, and it was perfect for that transition of our family going from not vegan to becoming a vegan.
Right.
So we're gonna add
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Yeah.
That's the golden ticket right there. So this is non-bleached, unsalted, regular peanut butter.
Like straight from the grinder if you can get it, right?
Yes.
And
And Sprouts carries a great one. It's and it's their own brand, which I love. And again, super affordable. So we're gonna go ahead and get this all blended together. And you just wanna make sure that you create a really creamy consistency. See how it's already starting to emulate a batter.
Right.
The peanut butter
looks
helps
like
with that.
cookie dough.
Yes. So that should be about the consistency that we want it to be. And you can see too within the bowl how creamy that is. The peanut butter definitely helps. So we're just gonna scoop this right into the bowl here, and then we're gonna add our chocolate chips. You can also taste the batter too. If you feel like you want it to be a little bit more sweet, I recommend adding maple syrup and not agave, because the maple syrup actually will not burn as quickly as the agave might.
Right.
So maple
okay.
syrup is a better thing to add. I'm a chocolate fiend.
Yeah.
And we are doing dark chocolate for these.
Oh.
You can use any kind of chocolate that you desire, milk chocolate, whatever. I like dark chocolate. And I use a generous amount, about almost 2 cups.
So this is like a special chocolate as well, right?
Yes. So enjoy
This is
life.
Certified vegan.
Yes, it is. Non-GMO. They make amazing chocolate chips. They bake.
And they
perfectly.
use the proper sugar, the non-bone char sugar.
Yes.
There's no dairy in them. There's no
No.
risk of dairy in them.
No.
And we got these at Sprouts as well.
Yes.
So this is really a nice brand for this sort of thing.
And you can see even as I'm
It
stirring
looks
in the chocolate
like
chips.
chocolate chip cookie dough.
And you can eat this raw.
No eggs in it.
So you can put this in, I put it in a mason jar, and sometimes the girls and I, we just have a spoon on hand and just spoon it out and eat it right out of the fridge. And this
love
will
it.
stay for, 4 to 5 days in the refrigerator. You can
Yeah.
freeze it too.
Yeah.
So now that it's all mixed in well, I need to butter the pan.
Yeah, bring your pie pan up here.
So I just take the Earth Balance butter, just a small morsel, and just rub it into the pan so it doesn't
help
stick.
It make it non-stick, yeah.
Yes. And it gives it that nice buttery, crispy outer crust to it. And I like to put it in a pie pan, for one, because I just like the balance of the cook that it gives it, but I also like to cut it up in a pie sometimes, in like a pie shape.
So can you use this as like a pie crust and make like a non-baked pie or something like that, maybe without the chocolate chips?
Definitely. I have also used it for one of the girls' birthdays. I did a muffin pan, and I put little dollops of this batter into the muffin tin, and I made ice cream cups with it.
Nice.
So that works well too. This is a really versatile batter. Just like you would use cookie dough, you can use this in the same ways. So we're just gonna scoop that all in there and evenly disperse it throughout the pan. And I saved a little bit of chocolate chips too, just to sprinkle on top. Because 2 cups of chocolate chips sometimes is just not enough.
You were saying that the more chocolate chips you add, the gooier it gets.
Yes. So if you don't want it super gooey, if you want it to be a little bit more uniform, I guess you could say, when you cut it, don't add as many chocolate chips.
Now, can we like take a sheet pan and put dollops of this down and like make regular cookies with it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, there's no running or anything like that. They bake perfect individually as well.
All right, so this goes into the oven at what temperature?
We do 350 for 20 to 25 minutes. Do the toothpick test if you're doing it in a pie pan.
Okay.
If you're doing individual cookies, they're easier to watch.
Okay.
But this will take, just depending on your oven, 20 to 25 minutes is usually it.
Okay, so we're gonna get this into the oven. We're gonna let it bake. We're gonna come back. We're going to show you all the food and talk with Jessica a little bit more. TheVeganYoni.com. We'll be right back. This was a cookie that we made earlier. You can see it just absolutely looks gorgeous. It's nice and caramel colored. It's gonna be totally delicious. I can't wait to dig into this. But we're gonna kind of plate everything really fast. Let me just cut a wedge out of this, okay? So I'm just gonna use my chef's knife.
Super smooth and flaky.
Is that too big?
That's not in my vocabulary
Okay, good.
when it comes to sweets.
So I just want to make sure I'm cut. And then we're just bringing that out. Doesn't that look awesome?
Perfect. Yum.
That looks awesome. So there's that one. So we're going to plate all of these. So we're just going to set that one down like so. And then we have the Wellington here. Super excited. I'm going to use a serrated knife for this one.
Yes.
I'm going to like kind of slightly cut off the end here. Just kind of letting the knife do its work, you know? Gorgeous. And then across here. Look at that, Jessica.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that looks
so yummy.
amazing. And so then we can even cut it here if we want. And then I'll just bring over a plate.
So beautiful. And see, as you let it set, it doesn't run everywhere.
Yeah.
So
It looks
the
gorgeous.
dough.
Let's do your shells.
These turned out so pretty. I love the bake on this. So get a couple of these plated.
Like 3 or 4 or something like that, probably, right?
Yes, I usually eat about 6, but we'll do
Right.
we'll do 4 for today's purposes. And I like to top them off with a little bit of the remaining sauce.
Beautiful. Don't be shy, huh?
Oh yeah, no. Tons of sauce and then a little bit of fresh chopped basil for the top.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So yum.
Beautiful. Look at that. That is gorgeous.
Let's
And then
finish
we
up.
have our shepherd's pie.
Ooh.
And in this one, we're gonna shoot for a wedge as well. And you like after it comes out of the oven, it can set for a bit.
Yes, you can leave this, like, usually when I make this for dinner, I'll make it ahead of time and I'll let it sit out for usually 30 to 40 minutes. You don't have to, but you know, my kids are smaller, so I like their food to be plenty cooled off, and it allows it to kind of get together. See, that's beautiful.
That is gorgeous.
Oh, it smells so good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put a wee bit more on here.
Yes.
Like that, you can see the filling really nice.
That's so good.
And then we'll just set this aside. And I'm pretty much ready to do some eating.
Yeah, same.
So, with that being said, we're gonna bring out one of your very, very good friends. And this has been a very special thing for me because I've been linked with your family ever since like 2005 with the cooking store and your mom. And then I married Tara Sevely, which we're gonna bring out. And you guys have become super, super good friends.
Yes.
And hang out, and our kids play all the time, and we get to eat together often. And it's inspired us to kind of live more of a healthier lifestyle as well. So let's try some stuff. Come on, let's dig in.
It smells amazing in here. Thank you.
Yes.
What should we try first? I want to try this.
Yeah, try that one.
The
I'm gonna go in
shepherd's
with the
pie.
shell.
Let's also use my fingers. It's so good.
The shells are delicious. I want to try.
I'll bite a cookie.
Oh, I'm really excited for you to try that garbanzo bean cookie.
Let's try the cookie.
I'm a sweet.
Mmm.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
You can't even tell.
Chocolate peanut
No
butter.
flour. So Jessica, the food was just absolutely amazing. Everything was delicious.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Jessica, the vegan Yoni, Tara Sevely. I'm Chef Robert Sevely from the Flavor of Riverside. Everybody keep cooking.